Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to yet again another misty, dank Holmenkollen. But the spirits are high for the women's 30-kilometre classic race. And of course, this, on paper at least, should be yet another Norwegian affair. However, perhaps the script won't quite turn out like that. But we'll have to wait and see. And alongside myself, David Goldstrom, as ever, Mike Dixon, looking forward to this journey in which the racers have one opportunity to change their skis over the 30-kilometre distance. And as you can see, it is, from a spectating point of view, pretty miserable. Well, as I said, Mike's alongside me. Good afternoon, Mike. How are you feeling?
Very good, David. It is a pity it's dreich and dank and just not the best spectating day for all these tens of thousands of people come up to watch this one, but the race will be brilliant.
Yeah, yesterday with Martin Jonsson Sundby was excellent, and there is Therese Johaug, who is as dominant as Sundby is in the men's division, so she is in command of the women's division. Under the starters' orders, and a journey that should take about an hour and 20 minutes. But who can go with the pace of Johaug? That's the big question. Well, a ridiculously long hold, but nonetheless, 50 women from 13 countries underway, and that's almost as big a field as yesterday's men's charge out of this famous Holmenkollen Stadium. The 22nd time that they've run 30 kilometres in Oslo, and as ever, this, Mike, is the very special role of honour, isn't it? To win the 30k for the women here in classic style is special.
It's huge prestige, isn't it? Since it became a regular feature into the World Cup calendar, in 1988, of course, races being held here since 1902, but it's a real special feature, and absolutely, it's alongside Olympic Games and World Championships 30 kilometres, this is the one to win.
Yeah, so the woman who's dominated in recent years, of course, is not with us today, but I'm sure she'll have an eagle eye on it, and that, of course, is Mariette Bjørgen. Getting to know her son Marius even more day by day, but she'll be back, and she'll be fascinated to see whether the Norwegians can be as dominant as they were last year when they clean swept this race.
Well, do you know, looking at the athletes on this lineup, and not that many, only 50, but it's hard to see anybody threatening three Norwegians for the podium. Niskanen, of course, possibility. Kalla will try.
Yeah, there are plenty with sufficient pedigree. Even the likes of Masahiko Ishida, who wears bib number 24. She's very much a classic specialist, the Japanese racer who's now in her mid-30s. But if she's set up for this race and is in good heart, then I would expect to see her in the top 10. But look what's happening already. Therese Johaug doing what Martin Jonsson Sundby did, which is from stride number one, trying to put the entire field under pressure.
David, it was a real, I was surprised the attack, or the start from the gun. Normally, traditionally in a 30, it's pretty much, you know, warm up, if you like, on the journey. But from the gun, it was dynamic, it was absolutely flat out. And now 2 minutes 20 later, Therese Johaug is setting her stall out. It was an obvious stall she set out, but she really is attacking so hard in this early part of the race.
And the journey here, Mike, it's sort of made up from initially one loop, and then the rest are very much like yesterday.
Exactly, and this is within the stadium grounds. This is the night track, which is within the stadium itself. They're spinning around, if we could only see it, up and around underneath the big ski jump, and then curving back down. So that's a 5 kilometre loop for the first one rotation, and then it's out on what the men did yesterday for 3 times around the 8.3 kilometre. And that's a very hilly and challenging loop as the men did yesterday.
Quite incredible in the distance racing this season. There have been 12 distance races, and Therese Johaug has won 9 of them. And Heidi Weng won her first ever World Cup success, and also Østberg for Norway, and the only other non-Norwegian to win one, of course, Jessie Diggins, I should say, in the Tour de Ski. But this is, well, it's just amazing. I mean, it doesn't make it any easier with the fog, because if Teresa can skip away, and she's skipping away here from her own teammate, that's Astrid Jacobsen. 3 there, that's Østberg. 7, that's Ragnhild Haga in there.
Quite sorry, David, fascinating already that Therese Johaug has set such a pace that even the likes of Jacobsen, who just won a week ago, she won the national championships, 10 kilometer in the classic technique, and she's not even trying to go with Therese. The pace is horrendous.
Well, I'm just I'm just looking at what Martin Jonsrud Sundby said yesterday. I wonder if these two, Martin and Therese, had a coffee last night, because Martin said after the race, I've been waiting for this victory for 5 years. It's been a dream of mine to win in Oslo. When I was 9 years old, I was camping in the forest, cheering for all the great skiers. And my strategy today, that was yesterday of course, was to shock the others with a hard pace from the first kilometre. I think I've never skied 50 kilometres that fast from the beginning. And just to enhance that, Nicholas Dierhaug of Norway, who was the runner-up, he said, it was fun, but it was the hardest race I've ever skied in my life. As you see, Teresa Johaug coming into the stadium complex already. And, you know, Nicholas was saying I had to work really hard in the first lap just to close the gap on the leading group. And I felt strong on the uphills, but Martin really deserved the victory. And compliments also from Velekjanin of Russia. He was delighted to be third and echoed how special a 50 is.
It's really special, and what Martin did yesterday, Jonsrud Sundby did yesterday, was special. We've very rarely seen anyone brave enough to, like Teresa here today in the women's, we very rarely see people attacking from the gun to destroy the rest of the field, and Sundby did that yesterday. It took him 20 Ks to get rid of a small pack. It took him the next, well, nearly 30 Ks to get rid of Dierhaug. And he took himself to a tough place, to Dierhaug. He wanted that victory as well, but Martin wanted it more.
I mean, she's opened up the best part of 10 seconds, Teresa Johaug, over the likes of Kalle, Jacobsen, Veng, Jess Diggins, Parmakoski, former Lartenmaki. And there are quite a few racers in here who've got really good form. But you're looking at the world champion, of course, from Falun last year, Teresa Johaug. She was runner-up in the Olympics, although that was a freestyle race. But in the World Championships of 13, you might remember in Val di Fiemme, 2013, she was the bronze medalist. She won in Oslo here in the World Championships. And she was, well, she first really came to note, if you remember, Mike, in Sapporo, when she was the bronze medalist over 30 kilometers in Classic in 2007.
She was 18-year-old, and we knew then that this girl was special. 18-year-old brought in from the Junior World Champs because she did well there, and she came third in the senior category. And this is her now. Each season, I think, David, we've been amazed. She seems to be getting stronger, winning more races all the time.
And that was the same year that Jacobsen won the senior sprint world title in Sapporo in that half-in, half-out Sapporo Dome race. So they've known each other, and it's worth mentioning, you know, that Johaug was the runner-up here last year in the World Cup. Astrid Jacobsen, it was a freestyle race last year, but she was in third. That's pretty well Jacobsen's best race over this distance. So there's a lot of women here who know the track, who know the journey, but not necessarily in classic style.
No, well, that's so true. David, what I saw there was Jessie Diggins, Sadie Bjornsson and Elizabeth Steven. I think they were, for me, they have the potential to make the top 10, but they were slipping madly. So the wax, which you so desperately need to carry you up the hills, to grip to carry you up the hills, is not working well at the moment for the American team. They can change. There's one option to change skis within the 30 kilometers.
And there's 15 bonus points for Teresa Johaug. There are 4 bonus point sprints going in. Charlotte Kalle getting the 10. The top 10 can all score points. And just to show you how important that could be in terms of the overall World Cup, Martin Jonsrud Sundby yesterday picked up 85 out of a possible 90 points in the bonus sprints to add to the 100 that he got for winning the race. So 185 points, and of course he's zooming away. The advantage that Teresa has in the overall World Cup is 130 points over Ersberg, 249 over Weng, 568 over Charlotte Kaller.
It's quite shocking, the pace that Therese Johaug is setting. We're seeing it in slow motion, but look at her attitude. She is on her limit, and she knows what she's doing. She's wanting to really destroy the rest of the field early on. And there's the little Luke to just think, right, job done. This is past the church coming up, and we're still within the stadium grounds here. This next very steep climb takes us to the high point within the sort of amphitheatre of the stadium. And now it's an easy track back down into the main stadium where the biathlon range is.
Yeah, coming up to about, as you can see there, 3.6 kilometres. Of course now, if she ever gets into trouble, providing she stays clear, nobody can see her body language. And there's the white suit of Charlotte Kaller leading the Norwegian chase effectively.
But look at the attitude, David. They're not in a hurry. They're not, because it's only 9 minutes into the race and 3.6 in a 30 kilometre. Nobody wants to extend themselves to try and stay with the incredible early pace of Johaug.
Well, it's a big gamma right on the left there. That's Jakobsen going through, 14 well to the fore. That's Sadie Bjørnsen from the United States. So moving towards 5 kilometres, but Johaug already clear. Well, Teresa getting plenty of support, and I think she's going to enjoy this support because I think on this journey in these conditions, really misty and not very inviting, you've got an air temperature of 2 degrees Celsius, a snow temperature of -1, so it's that sort of temperature, Mike, where 1 or 2 could be in trouble with their skis.
Well, I think we'll have a look again here. The Americans, for me, were finding it a little slippy. Well, there's Sadie now, big 14 on the left side. Seems to be working a little better up this part of the course.
But do you know what this reminds me of? I mean, you can go into a bookmaker sometimes on a horse race, and you can say, what are the odds without the favourite?
And I think
and that's what this has turned out to be.
Oh, it's destruction of the field. I mean, will she burn out? There's potential that she might, having hit this first 5 kilometres so aggressively, almost like a 5 kilometre pace, but it's unlikely. She's so strong.
Well, the other thing is also she's been in the form of her life. She's been pretty healthy all the way through, and there, well, you've got one chance to change your skis. I can't see anybody really, unless they're in really serious trouble, you know, changing first time round.
No, changing after 5, not worth it. You lose, what, 15 to 20 seconds in the process of changing them. But if you have a better wax and you have been struggling, it's very tempting to get that job done early.
Mike, you know, we're coming up now, you know, to interval number 5, and, you know, at 4.2 kilometres, she's stretched the advantage to over 30 seconds over the likes of Jakobsen, Bjørnsen and Kaller. And, you know, if I go back a little earlier to 3.6, that gap was 30 seconds.
Oh, it's quite phenomenal. We've never seen such an early attack in the women's field ever. David, I was looking at that the rise on this race. It's 1,053 metres. Sorry, 1,196 metres at the World Champs last year in Falun, which was viewed as a very hilly course. It was over 150 metres less. And of course, we saw it's in classic style. We saw Therese destroy the field by, what, 52 seconds last year. And I thought she'll do much the same this time with even more climbing. She's so light, she's so small.
Nicole Fessel has found her way into the front of the echelon. Also, Parmakoski of Finland has moved up. But here you are, coming at the end of that first 5 kilometre loop, which, as Mike explained to you, is very much in the environ of the stadium complex here. And now they go out on the country.
That's right. So now, that was a very tough, a lot of climb, a lot of descent quickly on the 5K. Now it's a more gradual climb out for 3 kilometres. Not an easy track at all, but the journey back into the stadium once you reach the 4 kilometre mark up on the hill, is much easier.
In recent times, we've had a couple of classic races in 2012 and 2014. Palmer Koski, who was top 10 in 2014. Charlotte Kaller, you might remember she was top 10 in Vancouver in the Olympics, which was the last Olympic classic race. But they're really getting spread out here now. And you can see some of them are having to work incredibly hard. And that does not bode well at this very early stage.
After 5 kilometres, nearly a minute ahead, it's unheard of. Remember, she won last year at the World Champs with 52 seconds. That was after 30 kilometres. She's nearly done that already in 5.
Fascinating to see how Ersberg gets on, because, you know, she won her 5 kilometre freestyle race in Lenzerheide, but we don't really know how Ersberg can deal with the 30 kilometres. I mean, she has raced it before. She raced it in 2012 when she was outside the top 40 here. She was 15th in 2014, but we know that she's actually improved again since then.
She certainly has, and she is one of the best improved for me, and her confidence levels are high coming into this season. But maybe not. Her strengths are more in the shorter distance, the 5s, the 10s. Of course, sprint racing is her thing. And for me today, over the distance, Jakobsen, I thought, will be threatening. I thought she might even challenge or try to stay with Therese Johaug, but she hasn't. She decided that early attack was just too much to stay with. But I think Jakobsen will slowly find her way in this.
Yeah, and it's so sad for me that Justyna Kowalczyk, you know, who's one of the great 30-kilometre racers of, you know, all time, Olympic silver medalist in Vancouver. I mean, you know, she's 50 seconds off the pace and seemingly unable to find her way back. I mean, I wouldn't write her off completely, but, you know, the younger generation have caught her up. They've overtaken her. She's had personal problems. It's really inhibited her progress. And the other thing, Mike, which is, you know, she had success at such an early age and also undertook a really punishing regime. That has she burnt herself out?
I think there's a real chance that has happened. Training on your lonesome all the time, yes, it's good. She's that type of person. She knows what she wants, how she wants, but you become a little stale. And I think she has sadly become a little stale within her training and looking at ways to improve. It's become stale. It's certainly, this track used to suit Kowalczyk so well because it's not that technical. It's just hard work.
Now, the other thing that's interesting, particularly when you're out like this, Mike, and, you know, sort of, this is interesting. You might like to comment on this. When you're out on your own like this and you've got, you know, the best part of 25 kilometres still to do, mentally, this is already a test, because what are you thinking? What are you focusing on here? Are you able to just literally take this kilometre by kilometre? Or you know, the tendency to drift away must be real easy.
Huge, and there's a little slip there. We're coming up the steeper part now. I think so, but we're seeing the body language of Jonsrud Sundby yesterday. So the desire to win this race, a little look over the shoulder there. So Therese all the time is aware that she wants a massive cushion. She's really on her limit, David. So I think she'll be looking at process, technique, and keeping this cushion of now 50 seconds that she's built up.
But is this the only way she can race? I mean, that's the other question. You know, she's not someone who we've seen really as a hunter. You know, she's someone who traditionally likes to get out there, dominate, use that very high tempo. And, you know, she's done it to you know, fantastic success.
You know, I think it's something you cannot train into people. It's something that it's a God-given skill. It's a desire. It's like a terrier. You have to be so focused on pushing yourself every millimetre. And from the first day we saw Therese Johaug, as you mentioned, at the World Champs, when at 18-year-old she came third in this race. At 18, it's unusual. She was just the ultimate fighter, and that's what she's got, this desire to keep on pushing. You can train it a little, but you need to have it as a design.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, really. And at the moment, of course, some people might regard this as very boring, but what you've got to do is admire a superb athlete. And, you know, this is no fluke because we've seen this now time and time and time again. Remember the World Championships, Mike, in Oslo, and Marit Bjørgen was very much the queen until we came to the last 30 kilometres, the last race of the whole championships. And there was Therese stamping her authority and being hugged by the king and queen of Oslo. And suddenly it seemed that all that Marit Bjørgen had done was just sort of wiped from the face of the earth, because here was the new darling of Oslo and the new darling of Norwegian skiing in the women's division.
So true, but the respect that an athlete gains, as you mentioned earlier, of winning this, the Holmenkollen, the traditional, the big race, with the biggest spectators or the biggest crowd alongside, it carries a lot of weight. The pace, the energy in this chasing group, they're not really chasing, they're just getting into their race. This is attacking, they're just finding their way. And I think we'll see it over a minute at 7.2 kilometers.
Yeah, and I think, you know, she's going to be looking to pick up all the bonus points that she can, you know, and, you know, it's another 40 points, which will, again, increase her cushion of advantage. Coming up, of course, there are the races in Falun, but ultimately in Lahti, a dress rehearsal for next year. But then you're going across to this new innovation, the Tour of Canada. And, you know, obviously you can imagine that there's quite a bit of prestige in trying to be the first person to win that. 22 up front there, that's Katrin Harsem now leading. 7 on the near side, Haga. And in the middle of the pack there, I can see Kowalczyk. Actually, she's not far off the front of that second group. So I'm a little encouraged by that, I have to say.
Yeah, very much. And I think this is good that the chasing pack aren't really chasing. They're just getting into their own rhythm. And I think that's going to give Justyna Kowalczyk some of her old confidence, some of her old self-belief back again. And I think today could be good. I hope she makes the top 5. I'd love to see Kowalczyk on the podium again. Well, I said it would be over a minute. It's a long way over a minute. A minute 15, a minute 17. Unbelievable. A minute 19.
Niskanen on the near side there. Niskanen's got a decent record in these sort of races. 2014, she was on the podium in 3rd place. But last year at the Worlds, 4th. In the Olympics, 4th. So she does 30 kilometers in both codes very effectively. Little herringbone there from Teresa, but look at the rhythm. What's interesting here, we talk about power to weight ratio, but let's talk about the power that she puts down into those skis.
Yeah, very much, and you can see the width at the back of her legs, the hamstring area. She's got extremely strong legs, and a lot of her program last summer was building more strength into her technique, into her ability. And she's using very long, we'll see her next time, very long ski poles in terms of classic. They used to only come to about under your armpits. Now they're above her shoulder height, and that's to bring in her upper body strength, which she's also developed. Here's the bonus sprint. This is part of her strategy, David, isn't it? To get clear, to hoover up each bonus sprint section of 15 World Cup points.
Yep, and there's it. Did I say she could get 40? I think my math was rubbish.
I think your maths were, yeah.
It's 60 points actually she can get.
Yeah, 90 in the men yesterday, yeah. 60 today for the women.
Yeah, but you know, it's there for the taking, isn't it? And you know, also, I suppose one has to say it's one thing to be on that roll of honour in terms of the World Championships, but in terms of winning an Oslo 30 in classic style, you know, you go to 2013, okay, she won it in freestyle, but you know, she would then join Marit Bjørgen as being one of the very few athletes in the women's division who won the 30 here in both disciplines.
Difficult to, but two completely different methods of travel, isn't it? And some athletes are stronger in one discipline than in the other, but to win it in both, it just shows...
She hasn't won a classic here in Oslo.
No, she hasn't. But for Bjørgen, you know, the outstanding name, able to do it in both codes. But yeah. I think we'll see it. Obviously today as
so a little bit of whatever you can do, I can do better.
Look at the time. It's just every metre along the track, she's extending that lead time.
Kalle up there with Heidi Weng. Right behind her, Ersberg. It's beginning to sort itself out. Haga there as well. And 5, that's Niskanen coming through. 8 also, and Kilonen of Finland just through the picture. And there's Justina, but that's not the Justina I remember. Mike Dixon together with myself, David Goldstrom, as the pack are really heading back towards the stadium, as is Teresa Johaug. It'll be interesting to see if anybody chooses to change their skis. Remember, there's still a very long way to go. I think you probably want one more rotation, ideally, before you change.
Well, that's what I was thinking. There'll be 16 kilometers left by the time they get back, almost half distance. Do you want to leave it till the next time round when you're beginning to feel tired and you want a little psychological boost? But Teresa, will she even bother changing her skis? She'll lose 18 seconds doing that. They're working fine right now.
NordicSkiTV@gmail.com is our email address if you've got any thoughts or questions to Mike or myself about this magnificent athlete, or indeed anybody else in the race or cross-country skiing generally. But look at the zest and energy that this woman puts in. And all of this, Mike, and all that she's achieved this year, you know, defending her Tour de Ski title and everything else, this all comes as a result of homework. You don't do your homework, you don't get the result. This woman does her homework in the spring, in the summer, in the autumn.
Very much so. And she's dedicated. If the coaches advise one aspect, right, here's your weakness, she will work on it. She'll turn any weakness into a strength, and that's what she's done with her leg power and the arm power. That was never her strength, was double poling. This year, she's taking it to another level.
So 1/3 distance, and it's a mighty advantage she's got. I think the other thing that's really good for Therese, that she's found this success with her fashion business. So a lot of people, you know, sort of, I'm not saying they twiddle their thumbs, but, you know, they don't have anything when they're off the snow to sort of distract them and get them involved in things. So I think, you know, the fashion success she's had has also helped to, you know, keep her balanced in another way.
And I think we were mentioning earlier, you know, athletes can become stale because it's a hard routine. It's a really tough routine, albeit with lots of luxuries in the lifestyle as well. But you become suppressed and fatigued from training all the time. You definitely need another interest. Studying is one thing. Business, it seems to be working for her, is another. It's a distraction.
Well, certainly Jan Daly over the years proved the point, didn't he, with all of his clothing success, which continues today. But perhaps Teresa's market is even bigger. You know, nobody really has made the impact that she has in the female market. So standing tall there, number 3, Ersberg, as they skip round here, 22. That's Katrin Harsem, the 26-year-old. She was involved here last year, Harsem, that is, who was outside the top 30.
The tempo in the chase group, clearly a minute and a half slower over 10Ks. The tempo is going to be less, but there's no urgency, there's no real dynamic body movements. Up front with Teresa, it's dynamic, it's powerful, it's attacking.
Interesting, Niskanen's got ahead of Parmakoski. There's Justina, just looked a little better there, but on the uphill, she looked quite laboured and heavy.
At long strides as well, although she's, you know, famously so strong, she can cope with the long strides. You know, a bit of dynamic movement in there, some speed work often lifts that. Is that Zhukova there?
No, that was Polina Kalsina, the 26-year-old Russian who was useful a couple of years ago. She was runner-up in the under-23 10-kilometre Classic World Championship, also fourth in the skiathlon in that year. So 2 to 3 years, that was when she was, you know, just under 23. She's now 26. But again, we've not really seen any female Russian breakthrough.
We haven't. And, you know, when you look at the period, 1991 to 2001, the Russians won this event 8 times. So they were the absolute dominant force throughout the 90s into the early 2000s. But not anymore. They're a much weakened force now, and they've tried to develop them. They threw them all at the Tour de Ski to get them learning and get them racing.
Well, the other thing also, Mike, is that, you know, rightly or wrongly, since the explosion of doping allegations with Russian athletics, every single sport in Russia has come under scrutiny. So every athlete, man or woman in Russia, no matter what the sport is now under the microscope.
And I'm pleased to hear that, to be honest. I'm pleased, absolutely. And I remember Retsova, who was winning in cross-country, then went to biathlon. She won Olympic medals in both disciplines, biathlon and cross-country.
Well, Lasutina was the big success story here for the Russians early on. This 30 kilometers was first established in 1988, but Lasutina 5 times on the podium and a multi-winner.
Yeah, I was saying Retsova, years after she retired, she was asked at a press conference in Siberia, I think it was, would you ever have taken anything? She said, of course. She was never caught, and I think it's a tragedy. So thankfully things are changing.
Well, it's Johaug to lose the race from here, that's for sure. And at the moment, there doesn't look as if there's any weakness at all. Well, no real change apart from the fact that the gaps are getting bigger. But let me just bring you up to date with 1 and 2 who've run into trouble pretty early on. And 2 of them are Swedish, Jenny Öberg and also Ida Ingemarsdotter. And you might think it's strange for Ida to be undertaking this sort of race because she's a world silver sprint medalist from 2013 in the classic style. But like so many of these racers, they train long distances, even though the mainstay of their racing for many of them is sprinting.
Yes, and I was just thinking that, David, with her Ingemarsdotter pulling out. Remember the sprint in Stockholm next week, so she won't want to risk overworking here when it's not going well. So I think that's partly why she's been pulled out.
Now the packer through 11,800 metres. And still Johaug with a clear gap here of 2 minutes and 3 seconds ahead of teammate Ösberg. And Ingvild followed by Charlotte Kalla, who's right behind her. Katrin Harsam also, Ann Kalonen of Finland, Heidi Weng in that group as well. Laura Mononen of Finland, Ragnhild Haga, Justina Kowalczyk. And between second and Kowalczyk in 9th place, there's only 4 seconds. And Kerttu Niskanen completing the top 10, and she's right on Kowalczyk's ski tail. Now we're coming back into the stadium now. Now this is the interesting point, isn't it, Mike? Who is going to change their skis? Who is going to take the risk of going on one more rotation, or who effectively now is going to take the opportunity? We're not quite at halfway, but this is the decision. And
yeah, you'd want to do it now. If your skis aren't working well, now's your chance to grab your spare set, your one chance to change skis. And I think Therese will.
And
will not.
Will not. Or
well, we said, I mean, it's working so well. She's got a 2-minute lead on anybody and everybody. Oh, she is. I thought she might.
Well, yeah, I was worried when you said that, because she would have been over to the right on the picture. So comes in here.
So that's it, an easy, relaxed unclipping of the skis back into the new pair, and she will feel better now, and that's even worse news for the rest of the field.
So Johaug, and remember, she's going to be well away on the climb before the others even get into the stadium. And, you know, forget about the fog. Even if we didn't have the fog, she's so far ahead that when they come into the stadium, she's already gone.
Out of sight. Normally we'd see them coming in here on the other side. Is that left-hander down in? Well, there they are now. They turn left, and then the little recovery down before the ski along the back of the range. They hardly see her. It's an incredible early attack she's made, Therese Johaug. I was looking at the winning times. Well, last year, David, it was a good clear sky day, and Björgen at 1:14 and 1 hour 14:10 seconds. Normally we're looking about 1:21 for this, but Therese will probably.
2014, Björgen won it in 1:20.55.7. In 2012, obviously conditions were slower, 1:26.09. So you can't really.
Well, I was thinking it's quite wet today. I was thinking about 1 hour 22, 1 hour 23, but the way that Therese is attacking, probably around 1:20.
17 up with the group there, the talented Nathalie von Siebenthal, the 22-year-old Swiss. and she's making progress in her career. She was 23rd here in the 30-kilometer test, and you might remember that she won the under-23 Worlds last year in the skiathlon. So she's a talent. So first you take on the liquid and the drink of your choice that your coach has got prepared for you, and then now you come into the ski change. But taking that drink at that point there is really important.
And vital, you know, with the left-hander, we saw them coming down. You get 15 seconds of recovery time, breathing time, so you can gulp down that drink without being breathing over hard. Very difficult to drink when you're gasping for air.
It's also interesting if you're left-handed or right-handed, because if you're left-handed, then you have to arrange with your coach to be on the left-handed side.
Look at this, good strategy from Kowalczyk. Most of the rest in that pack turned to the right to change their skis. Kowalczyk read it well, I think, and is going straight on.
Is that Burler?
I think Burler had just gone out. No, it's Burler.
It's Burler.
I beg your pardon.
It's Burler. And Slind, now that Slind, that must be Silja Slind for Norway, wearing bib number 26. Zhukova also pretty quick coming out of the area. We should get a graphic showing us the pit change times here. Kowalczyk still in the pack.
Still in, yeah. Yeah, did Buller. That's a good move, I think. Clearly her skis were working well.
Well, Steffi Burler was top 10. She was actually 6th here last year in freestyle. Here you can see the change. So Burler didn't, Slind didn't, Zhukova didn't, and Kalsina, the 26-year-old Russian I was talking about a few moments ago, she's also... obviously the Russian servicemen conditions are very similar to yesterday, so they'll have a good take on what they needed to do to prepare.
Quite interesting. It's a balancing act, isn't it? You get this fresh pair of skis on, so the glide, the part of the ski that's only got the glide wax, they certainly run faster. And I think weighing it all up, I think over the next 16Ks, it's beneficial to have changed at that point.
Yeah, it's not just wax though, it's structure, particularly on a day like this, like yesterday, where the humidity is high.
Huge, 99% humidity, absolutely. You need runoff along the base of the skis, which there is, the structure as it's called, wicking the water away.
Well, it's like those tyres on a car, isn't it? You know, in wet conditions for Formula One, where you actually, the design is to dismiss water in the quickest and most effective way.
Very much so. And
so you don't get that layer of resistance.
Which is slowing it down, so you want as much freedom. But very wet, well, the weather's hanging around. Snow -1, the air is +2. So it's just very wet, slushy conditions. Now, the body language here, I know it's the long climb back up to the high point, 3 kilometers from the stadium, but Therese is beginning to, that early shock that she hit the rest of the world with, it's beginning to catch up with her a little now. Look at the head rolling a little more. But this phenomenal mind strength that she has, she's just composing herself again and attacking.
But you look at her there, and you were talking about, you know, the work that she did. Oh, it's a bit uncharacteristic coming out of the track there. You know, to improve her core strength, you know, which has always been a major feature of Marit Bjørgen's successes.
Oh, so strong. The photos when we were up here for the World Champs in the papers, just the arm strength of many, many men.
Oh. So that's Steffi Burler out on her own, but I think it's a good move. But I think with fresh skis there, you're going to find the likes of Ersberg, who's moving up. There's a couple of the Finns in there. Also Kolonen having not a bad run, actually, and Kolonen.
And sadly for Burler, already, David, you know, she gained that 15 seconds. Already they've got it down to 4. So the gain, yes, she had it in her hand for a while, but she's lost it almost already.
Yeah, and, you know, we were talking, weren't we, about the Russian group. There was in the men's race yesterday, there was Legkov, Besmertnik, Larkov, they were all there. And they decided to go the extra rotation, and tactically it was an error.
It absolutely was. And I'm surprised that the coaches, even watching that footage from yesterday, you know, where do we plan our strategy to change? Definitely the majority got it right. I think some have tried to gain, but it hasn't worked.
And there. The thing about the Norwegians is that they are so strong in the depth of their athletes, but they're also their coaching support is fantastic. They can call on literally hundreds of coaches to be support for a race like this out on the course, and literally kilometre by kilometre they can give information if and as required.
Very much. The thing that's surprising me today, David, is the Finns. The Kilonen, all the big names of Finland are not really managing to stage an attack. They've got the world champs next year, Parmakoski, Niskanen, Mooninen. They're in the pack of chasing, but they're not doing any leadership.
No, I could say to you, Mike, well, why should they? You know, the whole pack has decided now that it's Therese Johaug's race. So now, thank you very much. We'll let Johaug do her thing, and we'll race for second and third. There's Ersberg wearing 3 and Kaller wearing 4. 7 behind there. Haga with the pink headband just skipping over to the right. Ragnhild Haga, another under-23 talent of a couple of seasons ago, coming through that Norwegian system.
Isn't it great? The families get out there, there's babies in rucksacks, and this is a huge part of Norwegian culture, the special days of cross-country racing.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday. I mean, it's this is a social occasion. You come out with your food and your flasks and everything else, and you meet people who you haven't possibly met since last year, but this is a sort of annual get-together.
It is. It's on the tram on the way up to Frognasetton, where the sprint bonus points are. Everyone flooding onto the mountain, and so many camping out last night in this weather.
Good to see Charlotte Kaller up there. I mean, she's a quality act. On the left-hand side there, Laura Mononen of Finland.
Well, the Finns are beginning to just, those blue suits are slowly coming. Oh, there they are, all 4 of the Finns there. And they will be, I think, mounting an attack within the last 8 kilometres.
And they've completely eclipsed Steffi Böhler, who was right at the back of that group. So that really didn't pay.
Look at this, Therese Johaug skis. It is a very steep climb, that one, so she had to get out of the track, and herringbone.
Hey, but another 15 points coming her way. Remember, it's the first 10 that all are entitled to bonus points for this Audi bonus trophy that is yet another award at the end of the season. But it also, these points counting in World Cup. And they're all packed together here. So actually, okay, Theresa's doing her thing, but we've got quite a race on here, because who's to say, with such a large pack of athletes, this is a quite traditional situation. What they've done is they've not bothered about the bonus sprints. They've let Theresa do her thing, and they're racing the race. Well, a very good evening to Rick in, as you say, Rick, sunny Tasmania. Now, you've come up with a really interesting idea or assessment, really, of Theresa Johaug's ability. You're saying that you have seen her running 9 minutes for 3 kilometres on the road. That's admittedly 4 to 5 years ago. And by your assessment, that would translate to about 15 minutes 30 for 5K on a running track, and that she's a much better athlete today, and that would make her very competitive, Mike, on the athletic stage.
Oh, absolutely. When you're running a 3-minute kilometre on the running track, it's national class, and that a lot of these athletes are. I'm thinking of Elizabeth Stephen, the American team. She's a great fair mountain runner, and a lot of them could be national team over 5,000 metres, over 10,000 metres running.
Theresa Johaug over the half distance, and a very good morning to Andrew in Montana. You're asking, Mike, here's one definitely for you, if Theresa will run away with this Tour of Canada, or if Ersberg could take the win, because there are 3 sprints contained in that Tour of Canada, and that could make it a lot closer, and could be really interesting. And the ski tour in Canada, 800 points to offer for stage wins.
Do you know, I think Andrew's spot on there with the 3 sprints, and that's the only weakness that this lady has, is the inability to match the best in sprints, and I think Ersberg has a big gain there.
So these bonus points that she's collecting here today are really important.
And I think she's mapped this thing out. She's looked at what's to come in the season. Uzberg isn't that far behind her in World Cup terms, so she wants to get those extra 60 points to build the cushion for the safety of those North American races. But Andrew, spot on, 3 sprint races. Teresa will not, we wouldn't expect, feature in the top 5, the top 10, therefore not picking up as many points in the sprints.
And also, hello to Colin. Here's a question, Mike. What would Teresa's summer training regime be like to build this level of incredible fitness?
It's huge, and Martin Fourcade, the best biathlete, and I think the best, almost the best of all time. He's so great. He moved out here in July, and he said the person who has inspired him the most was watching Therese Johaug training. She is with her ski poles on, so from the city of Oslo should be running and then bounding up to the high point of the hill on a 2.5-hour run. So lots of distance running training, incorporating the ski poles. Thousands of kilometers of roller skiing, so classic technique and freestyle technique, and of course lots of hours in the gym. Would then move in August to the glacier. She had 3 glacier camps down in Italy. They're getting 10 to 15 days skiing in each of those months.
So over 50 minutes into this race, NordicSkiTV@gmail.com is our email address, and it's Charlotte Kaller who's sort of in a way leading the chase, but maybe leading the race for 2nd and 3rd places on the podium.
Just thinking, David, people might be wondering why in a 30-kilometer race there's one athlete, this amazing athlete, out front by nearly 3 minutes, and probably people are thinking, why doesn't she back off? Why doesn't she just slow down? But that's not her design. She is running the race as hard as she can, and so are those chasing. It's just her design. She will not slow down. The coaches are probably saying, Therese, back off. You don't need now to keep smashing this race. But she'll keep going at this pace.
Well, I think it's inevitable, isn't it? The rhythm that she's got. And 3 minutes ahead of Kaller, Østberg, Beng, Kilonen, Mononen, Kowalczyk in the top 10. And she's right with that group of racers vying for 2nd and 3rd place, and Niskanen just behind her, Hager, von Siebenthal, the best for Switzerland, and they're all together within 6 or 7 seconds. Ishida's with them for Japan, so is Barmakovsky. Zhukova, who didn't change her skis, 3:48 behind, but she will change next time. And Slind also, who didn't change her skis, also 3:49. So they are actually, they came out and gained 15 seconds like Böhler, but they've now found that they are 35 seconds behind the chasing second pack. And did you have one more retirement, Mike, that you picked up on?
There was just Jakobsen. I thought Jakobsen would podium today, but clearly she's not feeling strong, so she's backed off already, sadly.
Yeah, so Matrasova of Kazakhstan, Heimdall from Norway, Øberg and Ingmarsdotter, who I mentioned earlier, and now joined by Jakobsen. And Ida Sargent from the United States didn't actually start the race. Of course, you can see here a good amount of Swedish support, because it's not that difficult to drive across from Sweden, as the Norwegians do regularly, to go and buy their cheaper food and wine and everything else across in Sweden. That's the way they do it. The other way round.
I was just thinking of the earlier message, David, from Andrew in Tasmania. The athlete who's retired now, Christian Stormer Steyr, she was the Norwegian champion in running in track and field over 5,000 meters, and I believe her time was something quite well international at 14:35, 14:40, which is phenomenal running. And Therese is almost up in that bracket in track and field.
Because Teresa already through 18,000 meters, and there she is. And this is, as we mentioned earlier, mental strength harmonized with physical strength.
Well, I tell you what, for the first time there with 10 Ks to go, we saw that the arms dropping down by her side, the fatigue is absolutely burning now, burning Therese Johaug up.
But the reality is that Kilonen can't see that happening. It might give her a little boost, and Erzberg up there, and Kaller as well.
3 minutes behind, 3 minutes, 12 seconds, the chasing pack.
Ishida in there for Japan, certainly the best for her country. Ishida's always been a really good classic racer, and you know, go back to 2010. She's now 35 years of age, but in Vancouver 6 years ago, she finished 5th in the Olympic Games in the 30 Classic there. And lots of Norwegians involved here. There's Theodorsen. I think you said, Mike, at the beginning of the race, something like 16 Norwegian women in this lineup. Absolutely 16, and a lot of the ones, a lot of the younger athletes who did so well in Tromsø last weekend at the Norwegian National Championships, they've been included in this one on the merit of the results from Tromsø, the national champs. So the main pack, or the chasing pack, through 18,000 meters now, and here moving up now to 19,000. She's through that, and this is Teresa Johaug just carrying on. Now, here's a chance, body language. There's a little bit of horizontal rock and roll. There is, and slow down. That again, we're at the high point there. She's now going to get a long recovery back down into the stadium, then through the stadium, then back out on the hills again, and back into the stadium. So she's changed her skis once. There are no more ski changes. She's totally reliant on what her servicemen have delivered her. So out of the mist they came. It's still very cat and mouse, isn't it? Now this second group has got whittled a little. I think there's 10 remaining in this chase group, so this is the fight for the second and third place. Well, you mentioned Ishida. Ishida still, she's pulled herself back into this group. There she is, bib 24, second at the back, second last in this chase pack. Now, so still a chance there for Ishida to make the top 5, make a podium. Afternoon, Frank, in Spain. Your company is ever very welcome. Glad you got up after what I presume was another heavy Saturday night. But you remember camping out in Holmenkollen, campfires, hot dogs, a few cold ones as well, and the great atmosphere of the festival. But usually, as you say, incapacitated on the following Monday. Do you know, that's interesting, the hot dogs and the campfires. When you're racing, I've done the 50 kilometer 2 times here, the World Cup here, and you're in this hour and a half, 2 hours of hell, but all those smells trackside, campfire smoke, the sausages, and the music, your brain picks up on all these little things, and it's a nice distraction. But I'm thinking that, you know, Frank is thinking back to, you know, when the 50 was on the Sunday and it was an individual time trial, you know, which was, I mean, you know, absolutely no disrespect to the athletes of today because the sport has moved on. But, you know, a lot of people, you know, they think the individual time trial, 50 kilometers, 25 kilometer loops, that was the real deal. Yeah, you against the clock. In a sense, David, it's harder to break a pack, as Teresa Johaug was doing today, because it's all about tactical racing these days. But she's so far ahead, head and shoulders above the rest, that she's decided to destroy the rest of the field. And I think we'll see the biggest winning margin ever today in the incredible, the 30 kilometer Holmenkollen World Cup. Yes, and she, you know, as she goes into the last 10 kilometers, she's also going to get a real boost because, you know, when you're going into that final phase, your body's telling you how you feel, but also mentally you pick up. Yes, and we saw that with Jontrud Sundby yesterday. He went through a little phase where we thought he was rebuilding, ready for an attack, and the psychology of going out onto the last lap of 8.3 is a boost. I mean, it's incredible when you think in the first 1.8 kilometers of this race, she was already 10 seconds up. And she's just built on this. And, you know, the further she goes, you know, because what's happening behind here is a more tactical race for second and third. Well, so, you know, yeah, they're running level pacing. You know, the projection is every time they're losing 20, 30, a minute a lap practically. Well, everybody who's fighting for the podium is now within the last 10 kilometres of this race. Mike Dixon together with myself, David Goldstrom, and this has been really enjoyable. But Mike, now, we know Teresa's out there. We know that physically we're seeing some telltale signs of the effort that's gone in. There's Justina Kowalczyk, 18, just at the back of that group. But what is now interesting for me is this second group and who is going to be brave enough to start making a break here. Up front there, you've got Østberg doing the work, Kalla there, there's Heidi Weng in third place. You've also got the Finns, Niskanen, Parmakoski, Kilonen also involved there. So it's not a completely Norwegian affair, and neither will it necessarily be a clean sweep as it was last year. I think there's plenty in there to try and avoid that happening, and that would be healthy for the sport as well.
There's a great mix in there with Poland, Japan, Norway, Sweden, as you said, Finland, and there will be, hopefully there'll be some attacking, some tactical attacks coming up as they pass through the stadium and head out on the final 8.3 kilometres. Østberg on the right-hand side there, more renowned in sprinting. She's doing well, very well over this distance.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting part of the race for her. There's Justina at the back. I think now that the Finns have come through, you can see that Kilonen's there, Parmakoski's there, and Østberg taking any refreshment, seemingly not the case. Weng, Kalla refreshes herself, and yeah, indeed, Østberg right at the end of the line, her coach there, to give her the drink of her choice. And talking about drinks of her choice, Mike, you know, as the world progresses to find more effective drinks, what's the drink of choice these days, really?
Well, it still varies, and of course teams are quite secretive about what they're doing, but without doubt some energy gels, even over this kind of distance, are without a doubt replacing the stores. You use all your own stored supply of energy, you then go into your fat store, so it's very sensible to be taking some glucose on board.
Laura Mononen there. Now there's three Finns up the front here now. Now this is something that seems to me that these women have got to a plan there. There's actually, I think there's 4 Finns in that group.
Yes, they are there. And she's getting her rhythm back again. She went through a bad patch, I think, David, and she's certainly suffering a little now, as you'd expect with this incredible attack. And just looking through the stadium, remember Steffi Böhler last time didn't change her skis, but she's completely lost her way in the race, and she's not attached to that chase pack anymore.
Yeah, I think, you know, we know tactically that was the wrong opportunity. She should have changed there.
She'll change now. Look at this. Look at the arm strength here. Just clawing her way up with her ski poles. When she's slipping, she engages the arms even more.
And it's great, this crowd. It's not like yesterday, which was phenomenal. Through the fog, we were seeing crowds that were 5, 6, even in some places 10 deep. But these mums and dads have brought their kids here, and many of them, who knows, will be inspired to become the next generation and the generation after that, to replace and take it on from this woman. But this woman is proving to be an athlete of her generation.
I was thinking the exact same. This is they will not see a destruction of the field. 3:44 with still 1 lap to go. I don't think they'll ever witness that again. So what we're seeing today is absolutely special, memorable. The destruction of the 30-kilometre on Holmenkollen Hill.
And look at this, you know, they're getting on now for 4-minute deficit, and that's because that second group has become a little bit more tactical.
And if you're looking at marathon running, this is the distance race for women at World Cup level. Yes, they've raced out further, and marathon racing in cross-country goes up to, well, 92 kilometres, the Vasaloppet, but this is the big distance race. And in marathon running, we never, ever see an athlete running away, destroying by quite the margins. Of course, it can happen, but it's unusual in cross-country skiing.
So Charlotte Kalla on the near side, Østberg, Weng still up there, Hager as well, and Justina just clinging on there. I would love her to have a good race here. Just, if for no other reason, I think it would give her a bit of a confidence boost. You know, she's working with world-class athletes, an athlete who's lost her way and is doing the hardest thing of all, you know, which is working her way back into this.
That's good to see, absolutely good to see. This brings, I was mentioning, you know, that we don't often see this destruction of the field at distance, but well, remember what Paula Radcliffe did in the London Marathon to break the next female athlete by some, what, 9-10 minutes that day. It's unusual and it's always memorable. And that's what's happening here today in Oslo. Therese, coaches are saying, hey, hang on, you're nearly 4 minutes ahead now. You know, you can back off, but she's not. She's just keeping that same attack rhythm all the time.
You know, and I just want to reflect on Justina, and she's gained a place there. You know, when you think about it, the Olympic champion over 30 kilometers in Vancouver in 2010. In Sochi, she won the 10-kilometer classic gold. 2 great classic achievements. And then in Liberec in the World Championships, 15 pursuit and the 30 in Liberec in 2009. And, you know, it's a fantastic achievement and record. And you think, you know, the multiple successes in Tour de Ski and in the overall season-long World Cup.
Oh, an outstanding athlete in Poland. So proud of Kowalczyk, and I would love to see her making the top 3 today. As you said, give her some confidence back. And I think, David, you mentioned the history there. Back in 2006, when Justyna Kowalczyk in the 30K was leading at 28.5 kilometers, her skis, she had no real backup service team. Her skis were terrible and dropped back to 3rd.
And just think, last year she won the Vasaloppet in 4:41, 4 hours 41 minutes. So she's not a back number. About 10 of them there in that second group. Heidi Weng, what a star she's been. I think we forget that Heidi Weng's only 24.
She's done an awful lot of racing. You know, the Norwegians bring, if they're talented, they throw them into the World Cup. It's been a tough journey for Heidi Weng.
Yeah, she's following Ingvild Flugstad, who's also having a little slip. I mean, I think, you know, has Ingvild got the sprint in her legs at the end of this journey? Because if she has, it could be a really interesting race. Likewise, Anne Kolonen on her day, who wears number 8 there, who she's following now, is also a very decent sprinter.
She is. That was a little, a big turn of pace there for the chasing group, and it managed to get rid of ever so slightly bib 6 Parmakoski, and it really is picking up to try and for one of those athletes in the chasing group to pick up the 12 points for second across the bonus sprint line.
So here is going to be the last bonus sprint collection. And this is 60 valuable points. And as Andrew pointed out in Montana, who knows at the end of this? I mean, we're looking at a lead of, at the moment, I think it's 130 points. Yes, it is, over Ersberg, 249 over Weng, and Kaller 568. And so very interesting, you know, when you look at the Canada races, you've got a freestyle sprint, a classic sprint, a 10-kilometer freestyle. That will be in Kaller's favor.
I think I saw a little smile from Teresa there.
So 4 away, and at the back there, wearing 11, is Laura Mononen. Pretty talented off the snow, master's degree in biochemistry, but she got her first World Cup points back in 2011. Charlotte Kaller leading what is now effectively the second chasing group, ahead of Kowalczyk, and 7 in there, that's Haga, and 5 just behind, that's Niskanen, who really hasn't been a presence here. But just going back to Mononen, she has actually been as good as 3rd in the Finlandia women's 50 kilometers as far back as 2010. So she's got a bit of form over this distance, but has also been, from the early days when she was a good sprinter, actually effective at 15 kilometers in classic style. The question is she's sort of like Deerhaug. She's sticking in at the moment.
Very much. Look at the group here, David. This is the factor, and especially Kala on the left, bib number 4. Her skis were terrible when it got to steeper terrain. She was leading that early attack, but her skis are letting her down.
And I tell you what, the strength of Kowalczyk there, as well as the mental determination, is pushing her away. And 6 there, that is Parmakoski, former Lartenmaki, and you can see that actually Kowalczyk would be running 6th at the moment.
Well, I was going to say there's a chance for, but this breakaway group, I think that's it, decisive. They've made the break, and I think they'll hang on to that break. And you know what? It's beginning to look a little closer to a once for the 3rd time ever. Norway 1, 2, 3 on the podium. Weng has got a good sting in the final 100 meters, and so has Østberg for the sprint finish.
So in the last 5 kilometers of the race there, and 7, that's Haga chasing Kowalczyk, but it's really the second group, the second quartet that we need to look at. And well, what on earth has happened to Oslo's blue skies and sunshine? And there you can see Teresa, maximum bonus points there, 60. So you can see the differentials here. You know, that is a 22-point bonus that she's got over Ingvild Flugstad, her closest pursuer in the overall World Cup rankings. And you just don't know at this stage of the season, you know, how influential that's going to be.
Back into the stadium. It's just a little nip into the stadium, not round the back of the shooting range this time. And then out for the final little part of the course. And I think with last check we saw Teresa 4 minutes ahead. I think she's going to win by what? 4:15. The pack will chase a little harder now for their 2nd and 3rd place. So maybe 4:10, 4:15 victory.
And that would be indeed the fastest, the greatest winning margin.
Yeah. So yes, the chasing pack, they are lifting their game now, and it looks, is that Østberg? It is.
Yeah, it's Østberg who's got up there ahead of Anne Colonen. So as I said, these two have got some sprinting prowess. Probably Østberg better. She's the Olympic sprint medalist after all from Sochi, and she's really stretched them out. And there's Weng in 3rd place, and Laura Mononen in 4th, effectively 5th in the running of the race. As they skip down there, Charlotte Kaller's got ahead of Kowalczyk, and then you've got Haga in there. And look how bent over these women are.
This is fatigue.
This is punishment.
Totally spent at 1 hour, well, nearly 1 hour 17 of racing. Kala, she's just wishing if those skis had had more grip, she would have been with that initial chase group and a potential podium, but I don't think she's got a chance anymore.
Now Kaller's just ahead of Ishida, who's not far behind, but now you can see here the break that Østberg's made. And, you know, she's only won 1 distance race in her life, and I'm not sure whether you could actually call 5 kilometers a distance in comparison to this. But this is a huge step forward, and this shows you the progress that Østberg has made physically. The fact that, you know, we always knew that she could do the distance, but go back to 2012, she was outside the top 40. Now she's competitive.
Oh, very much. And you know, I think she'll be so inspired after this season. She will work on her distance racing next summer, build a program to develop her into the all-rounded athlete.
Yeah, and I think Østberg has more tracked Bjørgen than she has Johaug, because I don't think there is anybody around who can, you know, track Johaug in the way that she does things. I think it's more Bjørgen is the example, and, you know, Marit, well, I wonder what she makes of this. I'd love to, it'd be lovely to get some words from her, wouldn't it, just at this moment in time.
Marit must be thinking in her season away that Therese Johaug has created herself as the dominant force in cross-country, and I'm not sure Bjørgen will get a chance again to get many more victories.
Heidi Weng, I think, you know, she's going to be determined to hang on to, you know, the position she's in, but at the moment, you know, she's not on the podium.
No, this is coming past the little ski jump on the way down into the stadium area again. Heidi just needs to make contact with Kiloinen and Østberg, and then she'll set herself up for an opportunity, a chance for the podium.
And Johaug, as you can see now, 2.5 kilometers from home,
well,
just gulping in the oxygen.
She is not a spent force at all, but she's on her limit, as she has been from the gun.
Yeah, but I mean, she's, you know, that, you know, when you're driving towards your destination and you pass the quarter full and you're hovering over the red, and she's not far off that. And who would, you know, in a way, that's, you know, what you would expect. But all these races are going to be in that similar situation. And, you know, the legs are burning, they're like jelly, and it's so easy to make a step, even on these relatively easy turns in the stadium complex.
Very much so. Østberg, she's gone early, you know, she's gone from 4 kilometers out and more, so it's a big attack, it's a decisive moment. Can she keep it? I'm not sure.
Well, Kolonen's right behind her there, and she knows that having made that break, she has to make it decisively, and you can see there half a dozen seconds separating her. But now the final rotation before they come back into the stadium and pass the royal box. But it's Norway, Norway, Finland, Norway. So Teresa Jørgaard getting this, well, you don't do a lap of honour in this race, but you take the applause when you're coming through the last 2 kilometres.
You do. And just in the chasing group, David, briefly, they were running 4 minutes behind, but that surge of pace from Østberg, she's got it down to 3:50, so that's the turn in pace.
And the 2 30-year-olds, Ishida right shoulder to shoulder to Kowalczyk. And just think of that last night. Frank was talking about that nice burning fire, little barbecue, a few bowls of this and that, and well, you know what it's like, Mike.
Oh, and then when that's lovely. And when you're sucking in the women's, they're sucking in 130 to 150 litres of oxygen a minute. Without a doubt, that smoke fire gets in there, and your brain registers that there is a campfire nearby.
And all credit, I think, to the Finnish women. You know, they're way ahead of Sweden collectively. And, you know, they are the bright hope for next year's Nordic Ski World Championships for the host nation. You know, the ski jumping at the moment is a bit of a nightmare. Nordic combined is not really anywhere they're threatening to win their medals. But the women's division of cross country, that's the, you know, the bright light. And here you can see Østberg, and I would say that that gap has widened up here. Kolonen's stride has shortened quite a bit. And the big advantage, of course, that Østberg has got is, 1, the crowd, 2, she knows this track blindfold.
Well, I think it's job done. For a moment there, I thought that Kolonen was sort of creating an attack, but no, you can see the body language there. It's not going to happen. She's playing comfortably for 3rd place now, and partly due to those slipping skis.
Best ever result, though, in a 30 in a classic for Kolonen by a heck of a long way. When you think about it, she was 21st here last year, and she was 5th in the, or was she 5th or 8th in the World Championships in 2013 in Val di Fiemme, and the previous 2 Oslo Classics, 12th and 22nd. So for me, this is, for her, it's a personal best. You know, we've all too often just taken her as being a sprinter.
Oh no, she's doing a great job today. And then, of course, it was Saarinen back in, what, 2007, who took this 30 for Finland, took this title.
Yeah, indeed. But Johaug, who won this title, of course, in 2013, won the world title in 2011, but those were freestyle. This is classic, and you can see Kolonen, she is desperate for the line.
Survival, she's just on absolute survival. Heidi Weng, I thought we might see Heidi, but Heidi has completely burnt out in her chase for the podium. Well, I thought it was going to be 121, 122, but these slow, wet conditions, even slowing down Therese Johaug a little.
No, I think you were right about the margin of victory, but you know, Teresa Johaug now not far away from the finish, and another opportunity to have a cup of coffee or tea and a little chit-chat with His Majesty King Harold, who no doubt we haven't seen him. I understand he's always here as his father, King Olaf, but we haven't seen a picture of him in the royal box.
And the protocol, well, you're not really supposed to hug the king, but remember last time there was a big hug.
They hugged her. They hugged her.
Well, yeah, no, so I remember Therese last time, huge hugs and kisses, and he respects every cross-country racer and every club racer in his country.
Well, as I said, you know, and you echoed it as well, Mike, we're looking at a young woman, and she is still young, just 27 years of age, who is absolutely the master of her class.
Well, Østberg has done so well. She wants these points. She wants the prestige of second. She knew first was impossible.
Well, the great Marit Bjørgen has been on the podium and a winner here on 6 occasions, but this is going to be number 7, so it's going to make her the most successful at 30 kilometers, and here she comes in, and that adrenaline rush as you come down on the left-hand side, the royal box. They're standing, they're applauding, and why not? It's been a demonstration of enormous human power and determination added to not a little technique.
Oh, what an athlete, what an incredible mind she has to keep powering her way around that track. She's special.
Well, so there it is, confirmation of what I just said. 7th podium in the 30 kilometers. Outstanding racer. And, you know, we know Marit Bjørgen's not here, but, you know, sort of... Marit Bjørgen's special, but so is this woman. And, you know, what a country to have 2 athletes of this caliber is well, it's I was going to say rare, but what's another word for rare?
Unique.
Still waiting, of course, for second, third to come home. It should be Østberg ahead of Kilonen. And I think for Kilonen, you know, that'll be remarkable.
This is Hellner back in, so just coming up round the free viewing hill into the stadium, so not much further for Østberg.
Yeah, Østberg, she's chopped the stride, but it's actually worked because she's got more rhythm in there, and she's managing this a lot better. And Kilonen, she knows from the messages she's got from her coaches that she's seen her closest rival off, but there it is. 2007 when she got a bronze medal in Sapporo at the World Championships, and the success story goes on. And apart from those 60 points that she collected in terms of bonus points, she's got the 100 for the race win. And we're talking about a woman that's actually, in terms of prize money, even before today's race, had accumulated more than 200,000 Swiss francs. So she got 222,500 Swiss francs before today's race. And, you know, Sundby was, what, $250,000 as a result of yesterday.
That's right.
I mean, these are big earnings, irrespective of what these boys and girls are earning in terms of sponsorship.
Oh, and I think the sponsorship makes up the larger portion. And, of course, everybody wants a photo with and a photo of Therese Johaug. She's outstanding. What's incredible is that when she came to the clubs at 10-year-old, they thought she would never, ever be anything special. She's too small, too light.
Well, this is Østberg coming through. She's been a model of consistency. Today is race 22, well, sort of 22 in the series. I'm just having a look here. The women's 30 kilometers in terms of points. And the lowest finish she's had in the whole of the season has been 16th, and that was in the Tour de Ski in that horrible final climb up Alp Cermis. Other than that, she's been, you know, podium 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this will be runner-up spot number 8 of the season for her. And you're looking again at a superb athlete.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful performance. She really picked her game up there with, what, 6 kilometers to go to get some bonus points over the sprint line.
Yeah, she just had a look around to see if she could see Yeah, and, you know, the personality goes with it as well. There's Charlotte Kaller struggling. We're looking for Kilonen and Teresi. Yeah, where's Anne? And a lifetime best over 30 kilometres. So what can you say? You know, Vilek said in finishing third here yesterday, this is a very special race. And Kilonen knows that this is nonetheless a major achievement. And look at the joy.
Well, she never shows much emotion, and that's an indication of how much this means to her.
Really good for Finnish skiing, and you got Heidi Weng here. Well, she's been fourth on too many occasions, Heidi Weng, but nonetheless, I mean, it's a terrific effort from her. And Weng getting across there, and Mononen also, I've got to say, that's a fantastic performance from her. And hats off to the Norwegians, but also to the Finnish women there. Parmakoski in 7th place, and Kaller, the lone Swede, and Ishida into the top 10. That's a very distant race. This is her distance.
And Haga, 8th, again showing that she is in the bracket of the top Norwegians.
Kowalczyk in the top 10, 5 minutes behind. I mean, she's not in the sort of form that she used to be, all-conquering. But maybe, Mike, you know, maybe just a hint of better things to come.
I hope so, and this will give her, you know, 10th, but it's only, what, 40 seconds off third, and she'll be looking at that. Where can I change that? Where can I get my status back? Not far off the podium, and that'll give her some confidence back.
And could that be Theodorsson coming across there? Is it? No. No, it's not. It's not. It's Harsum.
Great effort.
Harsum, who was outside the top 30, so she's got World Cup points today. And there, Berla. Well, tactically, we think that she probably made a mistake, but nonetheless, that's a gutsy finish from Steph.
It's been a while since the Germans were on the podium. Nystadt was the last third place in 2008.
And there's a good result for Theodorsson. 27 coming across there. That is a very good result. That will, that may catch the eye of a coach or two.
Well, Theodorsson, a member of Mati, the junior world champs, 2 fifth positions and a second. Second was in the sprint, so she's certainly world class.
Look at that. Every one of them, in their own respective ways, thinks that they're champion of the Holmenkollen. I mean, that's the best ever distance race finish in the World Cup for Østberg. I mean, frankly, Johaug looks as if she hasn't even had a race, and Kilonen a lifetime best as well. So what more can you ask for? But let's be clear about this. What we have just seen from Johaug, outstanding.
It was extra special. A lot of history in this race. It hasn't been broken by that much of a margin, and credit to her. It's she did it from a mass start, which is, I think, all cross-country skiers, all club skiers know that it is much harder to break away in a mass start, because those chasing have got an easier opportunity to stay with you than in the time trial format. And Therese, from strength to strength. She looked a little tired in Nove Mesto after the Tour de Ski, but she's certainly got her strength back again.
Here's a thought from Frank. He's saying, you know, if Teresa backed off a bit, do we think she might actually stiffen up? I think that's what he's thinking, you know, after a long high tempo, you know, stiffen up after a long session on the bike. You know, he's sort of throwing that question, you know, and here's a question. Is she the best female athlete in the world?
When you look at the capacity, she is running 3-minute kilometers. So as a runner, she's a phenomenal athlete. As a mountain runner, she would be even better due to her incredibly light body weight. And I know she does some of that. So she would be matching the best in the world, I believe, in fell running, mountain running, as they do in the Alps. So the engine is special, and her mind is even more special.
So I've really enjoyed this, Mike. I mean, it's been misty and it's been different. But I think this has been a very interesting race here, and you know, how can you tire of seeing an athlete who is so special?
Yeah, and often you could say, well, the race was dead within 200 metres because she set her stall out so early, but it wasn't, because what we witnessed there today was so special. And I think the fact that Therese did not stop fighting made it even more special. That was her on her limit, that was the chasing pack on their limit. She did not back off, and well done to her for winning by almost 4 minutes.
So I'm just thinking, you know, the young Jan Rieber from Norway won the Nordic combined here yesterday. Martin Jonsrud Sundby won the 50-kilometre classic. Therese has just won this. Coming right up, we've got the ski jumping on the big hill here in Holmenkollen. We just need a Norwegian to win that to complete a clean sweep weekend for the Norwegian athletes in every single Nordic discipline.
They get a bit embarrassed. They feel a bit guilty, and you know, they play it down. They're saying, oh well, they're just good athletes at the moment. They want to share it, but the athletes are programmed to win it, and so they should be.
Actually, they didn't win the team ski jumping yesterday, so I suppose you can say Slovenia stopped that particular run, but you know, the individual competition to come very shortly. And still they're coming home here.
And we witnessed that, David, didn't we, at the 2011 World Championships here, when for the fifth of the distance races there were over 120,000 people on the hill watching trackside, and all of Oslo was a little embarrassed. Oh well, you know, we're great athletes, but it's great to see all the other athletes racing as well.
Mara Kristoffersen there. She was a headliner for Norway a couple of seasons back. Zhukova in the points for Russian. 3 Russians in there, 27, 28. Well, the Nordic skiers, the program is as intense as you can imagine. We have the Stockholm Sprint coming up on Thursday. That's a classic sprint around the Royal Palace. Then it's off to Falun for classic racing over 5 kilometers and freestyle racing over 10. And then to Lahti for dress rehearsal races for next year. And then the 1st of March, it'll be over to Canada to start off a 12-day journey for the Tour of Canada, starting in Gatineau and Montreal, Quebec and Canmore. And Canmore, of course, which was the Nordic Centre for the 1988 Winter Olympics.
The biggest
here's
winning
the winner
margin ever in women's skiing. How hard do you keep pushing when you know you have such a big gap?
Oh, my goal today was to ski good, to have a good technique, and I work a lot on it this week, and I have 3 goals before the season. It was the mini tour in Rocca and the Tour de Ski and the 30K here in Cologne, because I'm never win here in the classic. So it was a big goal for me this season, and today my body was so good, the ski was so good, and the technique, I have to focus the whole time and ski good, and I have a lot of power, a lot of energy, and yeah, I'm not tired. So I'm good shape. I was a little bit nervous before the start because I was sick when the Norwegian Championship was in Tromsø. But for me, maybe some days in the bed was good. So today I have a lot of energy, and it was amazing to ski here.
All right, well, congratulations on a very dominant victory.
Thank you so much.
Very interesting point there, isn't it? You know, not only how good she felt, but the fact that maybe the enforced rest really helped. Well, Mike, I can't think of any more superlatives. I mean, you know, she is an amazing racer, and it's going to take well, I'm not sure who's going to lower her colours.
Do you know her point there is that being unwell, bedded down for a few days, but I think the fact that she missed last weekend, those 3 quite hard races in Tromsø at the Norwegian Champs, it's a huge gain. The body breaks down, and then of course Usberg and Veng and a lot of the others went to Drammen for the sprint races. That stress, you get yourself up for more racing, and in another sense that's why she managed to destroy this field, because of the workload some of the other athletes have been on recently. Not taking anything away from Teresa, and she says I bet she could do the same again and probably still win a second time. She's got endless energy at the moment.
Well, a lot of the season to come, and of course those big points available in Canada mean that although Teresa's got a healthy advantage over all of her rivals, it's not over till it's over. And His Majesty King Harald of Norway, and Her Majesty as well, and well, it's like old friends meeting again, isn't it? Well, I'm not sure who's hosting who at the moment. Teresa seems to have taken out over the whole...
King Harold is just speechless with admiration, I think.
Yeah. I mean, this is... well, I'm delighted that we're seeing this now, because it's really great stuff. And you know, it's really, really good. And this is what it's all about here at Holmenkollen.
I think that's Crown Prince Haakon. He lit the cauldron at the Olympic Games. I think I'm right in saying that, in 1994. He ran up, certainly past us in the stands to light the... It was a great moment.
Queen Sonja.
Queen Sonja, yep.
Yep.
And I think they're just in admiration of what Therese can do, how hard she can push herself.
Yeah, that is Crown Prince Haakon. And I think that's actually, Crown Prince Mette-Marit.
Well, they're getting the story. This is how it went. This is how I felt. And boy, did she want that victory. And you know, one of her 3 major aims this season, and achieving them all.
Yeah, and then they've all got to skip over to the big hill for the ski jumping as well. Now this is... it's, you know, it just shows you how, you know, the royal family historically and, you know, in the present era is so close to these national sports.
Very much. And of course, King Olav, he had the special 5-kilometer track built up on the, not special, but he wanted a relatively easy track, and it was created and it's still called the King's Track. And Harold goes up there skiing almost on a daily basis as well.
Not sure if she's actually won the Holmenkollen medal, but, you know, what do you have to do to win it? I mean,
well, Bjorn Dahlen did in his incredible career. I'm not sure if she has yet. Bjorgen has. Not many have over the years.
No, well, you have to do extraordinary things, don't you? That's the... I'm just trying to see whether... Ooh. I mean, there's some great athletes. Kasai's won it, or been awarded it, and Camille Stocks had it as well, Anders Bardal, Erik Frenzel, Morgenstern. I'm talking about... Teresa in 2013.
2013. Martin Fourcade as well.
Yeah.
Biathlete.
Yeah, Magdalena Neuner, another great biathlete in... Anna Einar Bjørndalen back in 2011, Matt Bergen in 2010. And there you have the confirmation, leading the distance rankings, leading the overall rankings, and a Norway 1-2. Finland, congratulations, pretty good overall squad effort there. Steffi Böhler, the best for Germany, promising for Theodorsen, and Siebenthal for Switzerland, the best for her nation. Teresa Stadlober there, obviously on the same time as the American Elizabeth Stephen. But I hope you enjoyed the last couple of hours. It's been good stuff. Well, it's just as misty over on the ski jump, but that's where we're headed next. I have to say, sadly, farewell to Mike Dixon, but thank you, Mike, because I think, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Oh, David, loved it, and to see such a special race. I don't think we'll see it again. A margin of 3:46 over the second place Usberg.
So momentarily, at least for myself, time to take our leave from the cross-country stadium. Just a reminder that the Biathlon World Championships are here in March. Patrick Winterton, together with Mike, will be your host for what promises to be a phenomenal event. And I only hope that they can see the targets when the Biathlon Worlds come round.
Yeah, 3rd to the 13th of March.